Welcome to this week's installment of Reading with Robin, your number one destination since 2002 for insightful author interviews and discussions on everything literary. And with no further introduction, your host, Robin Call.
For sure, one of my most favorite books of the summer. Now, I read the Grammarians a very long time ago, so just that I guess it's not a summer book technically, but I'm still in the summer frame of mind, and I'm thrilled to chat with Cathleen Schine, the author of the Grammarians, also the author of They May Not Mean To, But They Do, The Three Wise Men of Westport, Love Letter, among other novels. She's contributed to The New Yorker, The New York Review of Books, the New York Times Magazine, New York Times Book Review. She lives in Los Angeles, and she will be here in Rhode Island at the Cardigan Connection on the 17th. We are so excited to celebrate the Grammarians as much as possible because, as I am gushing, Kathleen, you know, I just loved this book. This is like my kind of book. This is like I am telling everybody to read this book. It's just a winner. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. You know, that makes me really happy because it's my kind of book, but I wasn't at all sure that anyone else would feel the same way. I mean, it is a book about words, so I don't know why I'm surprised,
readers.
But I'm delighted.
Yeah, we're readers.
Yeah.
I just thought it has everything. It has sisters. It has that tension, so the sibling tension. It's got wordplay. It's got like little insidery bookish things. It has, you can look things up. You don't have to know everything, but it's obviously very accessible. But it's the kind of book where I would reread passages and just is so clever. I mean, it starts out with these babies doing their talk and wondering where their bottle is. I mean, so it's just funny, I'm such a fan of your work, and so, that there was a new one coming out was exciting enough, but then when I saw what it was about, it's a reader's dream, and it's just fabulous, so.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. And they came with pencils. Your publicist sent us these cute pencils that come with the book, which is, it's always fun.
Yes.
Right? A little swag with the book.
A pink pencil, yes. Got to have a pink pencil.
Yes. Who doesn't want? I know. I'm doling those out very carefully. And you can visit Kathleen's website. It's kathleenshine.me. And I see you on Twitter, Instagram, also-ish?
Yes. Mostly I go on Instagram to see pictures of my friend Nancy's granddaughter, but I don't post much there.
That's the best. So if you want to see Nancy's granddaughter, go to Cathleen Schine on Instagram, and you'll find it. Now, how long have you lived out on the West Coast? Have you been?
I've lived here. Well, we were sort of bi-coastal for a few years. I've really been here maybe about 6-7 years.
Okay.
I mean, I still go back to New York almost every month and see my mother and stay in New York. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I realized at one point because certainly you were, the Weissmans of Westport. So in my head, I had you there, but I knew you moved.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, I lived in New York for about 40 years, and so it was a big transition, but I think I was ready. At a certain point, you think, what is it I love so much about New York? And when you realize it's Central Park, then you think, maybe I've aged out.
And you can come back and visit the park, which it is a glorious park.
Yes.
It really is in every season, and there are just so many. You could spend so much time in that park and just keep discovering other places.
It's true.
It is just amazing. I especially love when I'm watching a movie. It's usually a rom-com, and they do the aerial view of the park, and I'm always thinking, that is a big park. I mean, we know it is, but when you see it from that vantage point in all that green within the city, it's really startling.
Yeah, so, it's amazing.
What's your favorite park on the West Coast?
I don't go to parks, really. Yeah. It's like living in one big, odd park, and we live pretty close to the beach. So I take walk. I can actually walk on the beach, which is great. And having a little backyard,
it's having
different. It's like having my own. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs, so I experienced that, and this looks very different from the East Coast, but there's a sky and there are trees, and after 40 years of the big city, I kind of was ready for that, so it's great.
It's nice to know, like, it's really a cool thing to know. You know, it's wonderful to be planted somewhere, but it's also exciting to try someplace else, you know, more full time. And I think that's a very exciting place to be. So I still think of you over here, but I realize that you're there, and we're thrilled you're coming to do the series. So we'll see you in just
Thank you.
a little bit over a week, yes. And visit CathleenSchine.me for more information about the Grammarians, and also find her on Twitter. I noticed you tweeted something about, was it twins from Larchmont, redheaded twins or something?
Yes, yeah. I got an email from twins who grew up in Larchmont, and their father's name was Arthur, as the twins in the book, and they had an Irish setter, as do the twins in the book, and they have red hair. So
isn't that wild? Did you think,
yes,
like, I don't know you people, don't try coming after me for anything?
No, I thought, wow, this is crazy.
Life imitates
like
art.
I tapped into some sort of twin dimension or something. So it was great. It was exciting. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about putting out a book, I'm sure, and after all of these books, the things that you hear from your readers, and with the ease, I don't know, the past 10 or 15 years or whatever, where writers
communicating with people,
which is very different, that you get to hear from people and see these connections.
Well, for my first book, I got a lot of letters, in envelopes through the mail.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it was over 30 years ago. So it was 36 years ago. So people still wrote letters, and the problem was, then I had to write letters back, which I'm very bad at. So it's much easier to just type it in and push send.
There's nothing like a handwritten letter, but did they send them to the publicist? I mean, to your, to the publisher?
Yeah, they would send them to the publisher. That happens very rarely now.
I can imagine. Right.
Yeah.
Still sometimes, but it's very different, and it's a more immediate thing. And people, along with that, of course, goes everybody thinking they're a critic, and putting up their reviews and all of these sites. I mean, I never really read. I sometimes will hear from authors who talk about that, but I can imagine that could be a full-time thing, just checking out what people have to say.
Yeah, I don't do that.
That
can
sounds
be
like a good plan.
Yeah. There's a limit to how much either abuse or praise a body can take without getting weird. So, yeah.
It's a good thing to limit it. And I also was so excited to buy the book, which I loved. That was fabulous, and I always read it, of course. But I have to say, yours was like one of the best ones ever. It was really fabulous. I was going back and forth with one of your publicists, and I just was like, this is so great. And also then the review. So you were in back-to-back book reviews. That's a huge deal. I mean, really.
that was a huge deal. It was very exciting. It was good. I was away when it came out. I was up in northern New Hampshire and not able, so it was good. It didn't. It kept me. It gave me some perspective. So my head didn't swell too much. And I realized there were other things in the world, but it was very, very. It was exciting. It was also wonderful. It was an interesting review also, which is, people forget there are positive reviews, and you're always very excited about that and very, very grateful. But when there's an interesting review about your own work, that's an extra special gift. So
this
I
one.
like this.
The Double Take, Susan's. Did you like it? You liked it, I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
When you said interesting, I was like, wait a minute. I loved it. I actually wrote her a message on Facebook. I found her on Facebook and sent her or maybe I did it on Instagram. I don't know, but I said, I loved your review because I love this book so much. So we had a nice exchange.
Yeah, no, by interesting, I meant
good.
I found it interesting to read, with interesting thoughts and
it was very thoughtful. Yeah, okay. I got nervous, but I'm like, wait a minute. I think we read the review. It was glowing.
No,
it was so awesome. And Buy the Book. Now, was that the first time you've done Buy the Book?
Yes, it is. That's the first time. So when I first did it, I kind of just someone said to me, I think you're taking this a little bit literally when, it said the books by your bedside, and I listed the books by my bedside, and then, and so, but then I said, perhaps you'd like to comment on the books by your bedside. So then I really got into it, and then I really started to enjoy it and have fun, and I really
it comes across that way. Yeah, you could feel the playfulness. You start out with that you work in your bed, so your bedside pile is the tower.
That's where I am now.
Is it? I love that. There's nothing like a cozy bed. So then when I was reading that you work in your bed, I was thinking, okay, what's her pillow situation? How do you sit up? Do you get like a cricket? Like what does the physicality look like of you working in your bed?
I have just a bunch of pillows pushed up against the headboard, and depending on how bad my back is or if my sciatica, sometimes I have one leg on a pillow or on a roller. I don't know. And usually there's a lot of books and notes and plates of food and apples. And the worst is when I eat an orange, I peel the orange and then I put all the peels in a napkin, and then I forget that it's there, and I pick up the napkin and all the orange peels fly all over the bed. So, there are some challenges, but it's great. It's like having the biggest, most delightful desk in the whole world, because it's a king-size bed, and there's room for all my computer and all my books and everything. And then if I get tired and I want to take a nap, I just lean over. I just lean to the right. And
you just move the orange peels and lean over. The thing that's I wind up with, that's my preferred place to do my work often. But I think it's with my back or the way the pillows are. I'm like never quite exactly comfortable. It always looks good like in a movie, like in a Nancy Meyers film or something, where everything's sort of scattered and, the tea is there to the side. But I just loved that that's where you do your work. And, it's very convenient.
And I have a beautiful, beautiful view also looking out, because on the second floor, and I'm looking at palm trees, and I can see the mountains.
Lovely.
It's great. Yeah, it's really nice.
That's
beautiful.
Fabulous. So that's where you work. So there was that, which I enjoyed. And then the way you described the last great book that you read. And these are hard questions. Like, is it kind of like top of mind, or you have to spend time really thinking about what you want to share?
Well, when the question about the last great book that I read was an easy one, because
you had to pick the last great book, I guess.
And it's something. It's the Puttermesser Papers by Cynthia Ozick, and I read it a couple months ago, but I have been, I can't shut up about it, and so if there's a big, I don't know if there's a big surge in sales in Los Angeles for that book.
Yeah, I bought it because
that
of that.
Makes me happy.
Oh, I did.
Brilliant.
Oh, I absolutely did.
Brilliant.
I haven't gotten to it yet, but I absolutely did. And then there was one that you also mentioned that was really old, and I forget which one.
That one, Extraordinary
Women.
That seems to be out of print, really out of print. And the secondhand, I have about 5 copies that I've collected over the years. But,
wow. That's why I can't find one. You've got them all.
I've got them all. Yeah, no, that one's hard. That appears to be hard to get right now, which is too bad, because that is really that's a very funny book. But the Puttermesser Papers is just it's like this work of genius.
I'm very excited to sit down with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I count for one of those sales for sure. But I think the questions are always insightful, and I really do enjoy reading. This is one of my favorite go-tos on the Sunday when the Sunday paper comes.
Yeah,
And the question
too.
about the question about the literary dinner party, that's such a hard question, but I loved. Can you talk about your answer? Because you had a great answer, of course.
Yes, yes. So literary dinner parties. So many years ago, when I was about 30, and I don't even know if my first book had come out or it was about to come out or something, but I was at a dinner party with a lot of very witty people, older than I was, very successful people, and it was, and I was 30 and a little bit frightened of these people, and sort of sitting there the whole time, and the conversation was very fast and elusive and full of wit and jokes and people one-upping each other, and I just sort of sat there not getting the references and just basically trying not to spill my wine all over myself or someone else or the tablecloth, and I was sitting next to a writer, and I was thinking, oh, there's Tom Wolfe. Now, should I say that I really loved Bonfire of the Vanities, even though I haven't read it? Maybe I should say something, just, because here I am sitting next to Tom Wolfe. This is amazing. But I was too shy, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll just tell him that my mother loved the book, which she did. And then I thought, no, it's not a good line. So I didn't say anything. And then when I got home, and I remember this moment so vividly, because I had these beautiful boots that I had just bought, and they were incredibly beautiful. And I was undoing the lace. And as I was undoing it, I suddenly thought, oh my God, it's really good I didn't tell Tom Wolfe how much I liked his book, because Tom Wolfe was not sitting next to me. It was Gay Talese.
I love that. I thought that was so great. But I could see how that could happen. And there's something about saying that you love a book. Like, it's such a tricky thing anyway, but if it's the wrong person.
If it's the wrong person, and that would not have been a really smooth move.
That's funny.
So I'm
much
very
pressure, right? I mean, there's a lot of pressure there.
Literary dinner parties are it's too much. Even now, if I were at that particular kind of dinner party, I would be quiet, or else I would drink too much and act like a jerk. So.
Well, the pressure to be clever and just know a little bit about everything and everything that goes around. So, I think that kind of picturing that most people feel like that, but you always feel like you're the only one. So it's
I think that's
really,
true. In fact, I wrote a novel. My third novel was called Rema's Niece, and it's about a.
That's the movie. Didn't they make a movie, right?
They did, actually. Yeah. The movie was called The Misadventures of Margaret with Parker Posey. But it was about a historian who has a really bad memory and can't remember who anybody is. And, some of it takes place at parties where she's getting all mixed up about who's who. And because that is the way I go through the world all the time. So even now.
There's a lot of, I can appreciate that, because for me, when I read books around the same time, or if there are authors that have like sort of something very familiar or in common, I can conflate them in my mind. I try and, remember if I'm going to be on the spot somewhere, but it can happen. It's like that go-to. Mm-hmm. It's like, is it Melanie Griffith or is it Meg Ryan? I don't usually, that kind of thing can happen. So with books, but anyway, and I'm on the phone with Cathleen Schine. We're chatting all things literary. The Grammarians is gorgeous. Do not miss this book. I am telling everybody to read this book, and Kathleen will be joining us at the Cardigan series on the 17th, so you get to come and meet her. And we also have copies we are giving away. Go to Reading with Robin on Facebook, and you may win a copy of this book. I I can only imagine, well, you give the book to your editor, you go back and forth, but is there an extra amount of pressure when you're writing a book called The Grammarians to get every little thing?
Yes. Yes, I was very nervous about, and I'm sure there are mistakes in it, but it's a book in which one of the main characters is a copy editor.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh Lord, I
threw it all in there. No pressure.
Right, I better get this right. And so I asked, for extra care in the copy editing, but it doesn't matter how much care there is. Something will get missed, and that's just the way it is. So I also gave it to some friends who were language people, and I gave the linguistics part to my son, who just got a PhD in linguistics, so that I could make sure I didn't make any
You're surrounded with good people. Yeah.
There. Yes. And and even so, I was really, really nervous about that part, because if you're going to be a pseudo-intellectual, you better get it right. So.
Well, and people are just so tough, I mean, I can't believe what, on some of these websites, just in general about books, and I think, everyone's a critic, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, but I feel like with language, I wanted this to be a playful book, and I wanted I wanted it to express the joy that I feel about words and wordplay and sounds of words, and the way that words can mean so many different things and can be misinterpreted, and that's comedy. And and so, but in order to have something be playful or light, you also have to get it right. So. I did a lot of research. I read a lot of books about language and linguistics and grammar, and I still, have to look. I was reading through the book and just the other day, and I thought, wait, what is that? What is that form of speech? I better look that up in case someone asks me. But
that's funny,
because I am kind of forgetful. But yeah, you get, with any book, I do a lot of research, and then I take all that and play with it and try to enjoy it, so that I hope a reader will also enjoy it.
That playfulness comes shining through. It is such a joy. And again, such my kind of book that when the galley arrived, whenever that was, I don't know, in the spring, I sent your publicist a message right away. I think I might have been halfway through, and I did oh my God, this book. And then as soon as I finished it way too quickly, because I just didn't want to miss it. I just wanted to read it, which, is the good and bad, because I was like, oh, now it's over. But I just so loved it. I've been recommending it to everybody, people who are asking for book club picks. Wherever I go, that's the question: what are you reading? What shouldn't I miss? And if you miss The Grammarians, shame on you. You should never miss this book. It is just... It's such a treat. So talk about these twins, these sisters, these amazing characters that you've drawn, and also, because they're twins, curious about, they're twins, they're certainly separate people, but how you sort of decided to give which characteristics you gave to which twin.
I at first I really didn't want to write about twins, because they're so particular and exotic to, or they're often treated in this very particular exotic way, and I didn't want to do that. And I thought, oh, this is a whole kind of research. Do I really want to do that? But, as I started, this book had many false starts, and finally one of those, it was just, they were twins, and that was it, and that's who the book was about. They just came at me and said, here we are. You're writing about us. And when I started, I knew that one was a little bit older, 17 minutes.
17 minutes, all right. Yeah.
And I just tried to imagine what that was like when you are both exactly the same and not. and that kind of and being an individual at the same time that you have literally a doppelganger. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of tension, it's something even more, I think, profound than sibling rivalry. And it really drew me in, and I got very interested in them and how they would react to different things or to the same thing in a different way, and how they would differentiate themselves. So it's not so much that I thought, okay, this one's going to be like this and that one's going to be like that. Mm-hmm. As I wrote, they started to kind of differentiate themselves and start arguing about things. And, I'm reading this memoir by this wonderful band called Tegan and Sarah, and they're identical twins. Oh. And they've written this memoir that comes out in October, and it's really interesting reading about real twins.
I'm writing this down, yes.
It's called High School, and it's about their time in high school. They're a really good group, and from listening to their music, I started thinking, this is a lot of what pop music and opera and literature is about, is a kind of, pulling away and coming together, and then pulling away, and so it's about intimacy and individuality, but then loneliness and need for coming together. And so there's that. The book, a lot of it is about that kind of tension. Some of it's comic and some of it's, less comic. And I just realized if you listen to pop music, that's what most of it's about. And then if you listen to opera, that's what it's about. You want someone, and then you've got them, and then they want to move away, and then it's too close, and then there's an explosion because it's too close, or they're not close enough. And so all of that really started to interest me, and although I am not a twin, I don't know any twins really well, that situation really kind of captured my imagination, and I just needed to explore it and explore them. And they turned into these two girls.
Oh, and also so clever with their names and the ties to mythology and Greek, so there were all of these presents, not, hidden or overt, but they were all there for the picking. And so that's why I found myself sort of rereading, thinking, oh, this is so clever. I love it.
Their names took me a long time. They had very different names, and I just couldn't get the right names. And last summer, I was a writer in residence, I guess, at this wonderful thing in Assisi, and I spent the time in my room, like looking out at this unbelievably beautiful medieval town, and racking my brains about the names and changing it and this and tried that, and suddenly it came to me, and it just, and finally they had names, which made me very happy. Yeah, I'm very.
What does that feel like when you get like that? Because it's so perfect that you must. Yeah. I can only imagine that feeling of. Because you have to name them. I mean, it's not character A and character B.
Right. They had really. I can't even remember. They had really stupid names before. They had nicknames and baby names, and so because at a certain point I was. The first year when I was trying to write this book, originally it was going to be about translation, about two translators having a feud about the way something was translated.
Oh,
and I didn't know what they were going to, if they were going to be husband and wife, or father and son, or brother and sister, or sister and I just didn't know. And then I thought about the advice columnists, Dear Abby and Ann Landers, who were who were twins and who had a feud for 30 years.
I was so sad when I found that part out because I was such a fan. I didn't realize that or whatever.
And then their daughters carried on the feud. So I started this book, and after 1 year, and it was going to be about them, based kind of on them and in that time period. And after 1 year, I had 20 pages written, and I said to a friend who's a wonderful writer, and I said, oh my God, I was so depressed about Trump and all this stuff. I just couldn't work, and everything was coming out wrong. And I said, I've been working for a year, and I have 20 pages, and only 2 of them are good.
Wow.
And she said, yay, you had 2 good pages?
That's a good friend.
Fantastic.
I know.
That's so great.
That was a good way of looking at it.
I thought, yeah, you're right. And I threw out the other pages, and I kept those 2, which are them talking in baby talk. And
I love that. Yeah.
I just dumped, I just moved it into a different time frame, and then my wife I was so depressed. She gave me this book to kind of cheer me up, because she knew that I love language and words and grammar and linguistics, and she gave me this book called English as She Is Spoke, which was a kind of sensation in the 19th century. Mark Twain wrote about it. It was like a comic sensation. It's supposedly a phrase book for people who speak Portuguese to speak English.
Interesting.
But it was written by someone who obviously didn't speak English, and was probably translated from the French to. Anyway, it is so funny. The phrases are so ridiculous, and she gave that to me. She just thought I would enjoy it and like it, and somehow get inspired by it. And I thought, I'm not writing about an advice columns. I'm writing about language and language columns, and
so that really spurred on that part of it.
Yeah,
what a great gift.
And then it was, and it's a very, very funny book that is in print.
Okay, I was going to say, is that another one I won't be able to find?
Yeah, no, that one you can get. English as She Is Spoke. It is so funny.
All right, English, because funny is really hard to do. And that's where I appreciate.
Well, this wasn't meant to be fun. English as She Is Spoke was not meant to be funny. It just came out.
It just is. But yours is. Yours is funny and heartfelt and tender and all of those things that I just love, and the sisters and their parents. So talk a little bit about their parents. Influence, how they deal with this, and that the uncle is hilarious. The cousin,
good. I'm glad
the whole
you
family.
liked him.
Oh yeah, just from the very beginning, he's like afraid of these babies, kind of, right? And he's big important man, but he's kind of afraid of these very smart babies.
Yes, they unnerve him. I don't know. I just had a lot of fun. I always really prefer almost, but certainly love the minor characters. They always are really fun to write about, and in a way they're a kind of comment on the main characters, a kind of Greek chorus, I suppose. So they were a lot of fun. The father and the mother, they grew as the more I wrote about the girls, and I thought how odd it must be to have these particular children as your children, and how, and the mother is a little bit, she feels a little left out because the 2 of them are so close. And the father was fun because he's an accountant who hates numbers. Yeah. So that was
that was
kind of fun. And I got to write about dictionaries, which I love. And
the dictionary plays such a big part, and it's a gift. And just the description of Dad coming home with this dictionary that is placed on this altar, is That was really,
so
like, they weren't hoping for Barbie Dreamhouse. They were like, there's a dictionary here.
Yeah, no, they were very excited because for them, words were almost like toys that they could play with and make, invent games for the different words and give them different personalities. So that also was a lot of fun to do. And also they could use words to torture their younger cousin, Brian, which they did quite successfly.
Just so much fun to read and think about and see where and then watch the sisters as their lives, are not as close and how they manage that.
Right.
And then there's a feud of words. Of course, you go to the words, and one is sort of one-upping the other, and
right.
They make different choices with their lives, and we never give too much away on Reading with, we don't give any spoilers away on Reading with Robin, and I'm speaking with Cathleen Schine about her brand new novel, The Grammarians. Visit her site at kathleenschine.me, follow her on Twitter, and if you are near enough, please come to the big event on the 17th here in Rhode Island, the Cardigan Connection. We will be having Cathleen entertain us from the stage and sign books, and Brown University is there selling. So we are just so excited to have you. And check out the New York Times, the review. And also there was great NPR. There's been a lot of press. I've been trying to keep up.
It's been kind of like a wave of press. There's something in Vanity Fair that I really liked. I was reviewed with a really wonderful writer, poet, and novelist and essayist named Ben Lerner. So that was it's very exciting when we comic novelists get taken at all seriously.
I know there's that, right. Well, and this has gotten so much well-deserved attention, so I was really excited to see that. I know, it depends on, what gets attention, all of this, That's a whole other show.
It's been, but it's been. Well, I've been very lucky in my writing life. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, over 30 years.
Some amount of years.
I've been very, very lucky in being published at all, and in being taken seriously up to a point. Not too seriously. I know many, many horror stories, and somehow I have skipped over them or swerved around them, or
there are horror stories,
or ignored them.
Yeah, and you do hear them. I mean, because you know a lot of people, writers, and all of these stories sort of go around. So, and you've seen a lot of change, not just the letters that come in an envelope as opposed to now the ones that come digitally. In 30 years, what do you think some of the biggest changes in publishing and the way people are reading or sharing books have changed, and also what hasn't really?
Well, in terms of publishing, being a published writer, the feeling is for me anyway is very different. There was something, when my first book came out, it was 1983, and there was still a kind of old-fashioned, I don't know, not respect, but almost a reverence, for writers, and there seemed to be more. I mean, the advances were pretty pitiful, but there was you'd have a book party, and there was it was a kind of homier, old-fashioned kind of feeling, and the publishing houses were independent. And now they're all owned by big companies, big corporations, and I have nothing to complain about. I've been treated very, very well, but it is a different, and I'm at one of the, a nice small publishing house where, people and you can talk to people, but it's a different feeling, and it really always, there's been a sense that, you're out there. Well, when my first book came out, I remember the publisher told me, or the editor said, it will find its way. And I thought, what? I just had this vision of this
put it
poor
out
little
there
book.
and see
This
what happens.
poor little book with two little feet sticking out of the bottom, sort of desperately trying to climb up the bookshelf to find its spot.
Oh, like Paddington Bear coat, please take care of this bear.
Where am I going? And I said to someone, it got reviewed, and it got reviewed in the New Yorker by John Updike, and that was like a big deal. It was my first book. And I said, it got reviewed, and I said, so it's not going to sink without a trace. And guy who was a writer who'd had a lot of books come out, and he laughed and he said, "Yeah, it'll sink with a trace."
Oh dear!
And that's no, it was funny, and
right.
and so in a sense that hasn't changed, because really that is what happens. The book goes out there, and I've had books that have had a lot of push behind them that have not done very well, and other books that just sort of, were sent out on their own with their little, their little bare feet and did very well. So it's always
interesting. Like, is it the timing or the topic or what else is out there or whatever?
I don't
really
know,
hard to
and
know.
nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
It's a mystery, and so all of the planning. There's that saying, man plans and God laughs, and that's how publishing is. Except people's livelihoods are at stake, and
correct, there's that.
But I mean, Amazon. I've also seen a lot of villains kind of come and go, like Barnes & Noble was the big villain, and it was going to ruin independent bookstores, and it did. It closed down a lot of, because of Barnes & Noble, a lot of independent bookstores closed down. Now, writers and readers are desperate for Barnes & Noble to stay open because it's one of, and because there it is. It's a bookstore. It's a brick and mortar bookstore, and independent bookstores are coming back, and there are a lot
they
more
are
of them.
more. Yes, more and more. Yeah.
But Amazon is, has really changed things. It's changed the way people are paid. It's changed the way publishing makes its money, and so all of that keeps changing, and I think is, we're always at risk because we do something that you can't really, it's not food that goes in your mouth. Well, I guess farmers are at risk too. So
that's true too.
Yeah, so it's always changing, and I just feel like I'm really lucky that I know writers now, young writers who work. I started out as a journalist, and I got paid. You write something, you get paid some money. And now, because of the Internet, a lot of people start out and they just write for free.
They're not
just
getting paid
for exposure.
Yes.
And I don't know how they do it, and I that's a shame. That's
It really is a shame, and that's a big topic because there's the hope that there will be more, but a lot of them are. I think it just doesn't always pan out that way, and there's a sense of, because I know there are a lot of outlets that are very proud that they pay, even if it's not a lot, that they're paying all their writers, and they should be paid. So
yes, I mean, it's, people do it because they love it, but they also are doing this for writers. Or if you were just writing for yourself, you would just write for yourself, and exactly. And so, yes, I do think that there's a sense that everything on the Internet should be free, but at the same time, this is someone's work. It's someone's hard work. It's like someone building a house or sewing a dress. So I think that's changed more so, I think, in journalism even than in publishing.
Yeah, you put something up and it goes out there and people take it, or you want it, like you're saying, you want to be somewhere where there are a lot of eyeballs and you think something's going to happen. And I don't know, it is, and it's a lot of work. And I have such reverence for this whole world and putting these words in these orders to make these articles and stories and books, and it's just so much fun to share with the readers, and it's one of the things I love to do.
And Yeah, and on another level, it's in terms of journalism, it's just really important. It's so support your local newspaper, everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
And subscribe.
Can't say that. Yes, subscribe, pay for it, and pay for all of it. Pay for all the books.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that you brought that up. And before I let you go, I mean, we talked a little bit, and you shared plenty in By the Book. But what's something that you're looking forward to reading? What's on your nightstand, like queued up?
Let's see. Oh, God,
or a galley maybe
cleaned.
that you've been sent, or something that we don't know yet.
Everything just got cleaned up.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's terrible. Let's see. I have what's here sitting around. I have a biography of Philip Larkin that I've wanted to read for years. Oh, I'm really excited about Elizabeth Strout's new book, which is coming out in October.
Yeah,
that's something. Yeah, that's something I really, really want to read. And right now I'm trying. There's something I have downstairs. What's it called? Oh, I don't know. It was on my list, but I can't remember. But
I always add to the list, even when there's never no room, but it's, I think, but I always write them down because I don't want to miss a great title, even if, it's not likely that I will get to. But somehow, I just want the option. I'm very ambitious. So, did you read Rules for Visiting?
No.
Yeah, I think that you'll like it. There's a character in there that goes around correcting mistakes on menus and such, which I love.
Like that.
It's called Rules for Visiting, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I was just thinking of that. They need another suggestion, but that was one of my favorites this summer, and I am so thrilled that we got to have this chat. It's the Grammarians, Cathleen Schine. Visit her site, CathleenSchine.me, and look up all these awesome articles. And if you missed By the Book or this great review in New York Times Book Review, check it out, and come see her on the 17th at the Cardigan Connection, and I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be fun.
Yeah,
it'll be great.
We'll have a good time. Lots of like-minded bookish folk will be there. And
that's the best.
Yeah, I know. Our people. Thank you so much, and all the best with this gem of a book. I just loved it, and I'm going to just keep talking about it. And it's the Grammarians, guys. Do not miss this book.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's installment of the Reading with Robin podcast. As always, our full-length podcasts will be available right here on robincall.com. We appreciate your support and look forward to having you over next week when we chat with our next featured guest. Have a great week and happy reading.